because for our customers, hallucination is a potentially career-ending problem.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of the DevLab podcast. Today, we're joined by two incredible leaders from LexisNexis, two individuals who are helping to shape the future of AI in the legal tech world. Min Chen is the Senior Vice President and Chief AI Officer at LexisNexis, leading global teams across data science, machine learning, and AI platforms. She's been with the company for over 20 years, driving innovation from early NLP work all the way to today's multi-agent systems. So welcome to the pod, Min.
Hello, everyone.
Hey, we're also joined by Serena Wellen, who is the Vice President of Product Management for the US, UK, and Canada. She started her career as a practicing attorney before moving into product and AI, and now leads teams building next-generation products like Lexis Plus AI. Serena, welcome too.
Great to be here.
Awesome. So look, together, both of our guests today have spent years at the intersection of technology, product, and law, bringing complex systems to life in ways that make AI genuinely useful and trustworthy. So look, I think good place to start. Let's find out a bit about the both of you. Min, let's come to you first. You've been with LexisNexis through huge shifts in technology. How did your journey start, and kind of what first drew you to the space that you're currently working in?
Sure. I've always been in the technology industry. My first job was a Java software engineer, and technology has always been my greatest interest and passion. My journey with LexisNexis began back in 2005. Interestingly, I joined as a technical product manager. Although my time in that role was relatively short, I believe that experience was invaluable. It gave me the opportunity to work directly with the customers, understand their challenges, and see firsthand how our technology could make a meaningful difference. But a few years later, I gravitated back to what I love most, which is the technology world. Since then, I have progressed into several leadership roles, including the head of software engineering and CTO of global platforms, and now a chief AI officer of LexisNexis. Today, I lead more than 800 employees across data science, machine learning service, and global platform engineering. And they're all working together with the product team, Serena's team, to drive innovation and shape the future of our products.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. And what about a little bit earlier than that? Was technology something you always gravitated to during school? Did you study computer science at university? Like, was that something that you had a passion for from a very young age?
Yeah, I majored in computer science in the college. So mathematics is always my favorite subject. I guess that's one of the reasons. Like, even after graduated from the university, lots of my classmates, they choose a different path, but I stick to the technology path. And that's why I started as a software engineer. I think China Daily was my first job. And then I worked there for 3 years. At that time, I was the Java software engineer to build a website. And 3 years later, I joined Lenovo, which is a domestic technology company in China. I work as a software engineer lead to continue build a digital software and website for the customers. So I've been always in this industry. The reason when I joined LexisNexis as a technical product manager was because at that time, I had just given birth and I wanted to transition to a role that didn't require being on call around the clock. In my previous technical position, I was often needed at any hour to support unexpected outages. That's quite common for technology. But that was only the short time period when I joined LexisNexis as a product manager. But as I mentioned, it turns out actually brought very valuable experience for me. So I have a better understanding for the customers. My manager literally talked with me and he said, I think you're the best. You would be best fit into technology world. So I came back and become a manager of software engineer. And that's what I loved the most. But having the customer experience, really, I think it's an advantage for me. That's a great experience.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely gives you a more well-rounded skill set. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Min. Serena, same question to you. Not the typical journey, I suppose, for the majority of product managers. So yeah, it'd be great to understand what your journey's been like.
Absolutely. So I started off my career as a lawyer. Actually, I went to law school and began working for a law firm as an attorney. I was a trial lawyer, in fact, at the beginning of my career. and then transitioned to doing some in-house work that mixed corporate law and litigation. And I came to Lexis actually because I had recently gotten married. So similar to Min, being a trial lawyer is quite an intense around the clock thing, involves a lot of long hours. It can involve a lot of conflict and kind of intense emotions depending on the subject of the lawsuit and your client. And so I was looking for a role that had more, I think, controllable hours. And so because I wanted to have children and be able to be there for them. So I met someone actually who worked for Lexis on the publishing side of the house, and she'd had an interesting career. I actually met her at an art gallery, and she said, if you're interested in doing something that's adjacent to the law where you can use your legal skills and your legal domain expertise, Lexis is a great place to work. So I found an open role and applied and joined in the publishing arm of the house. So my first role with Lexis over 20 years ago, similar to Min, I was a legal editor. So I was working on editing the publications, and I worked with the authors who draft our analytical content. And from there, I moved into management. But I quickly, as the company at the same time was in its transition to digital from print, I began working on an earlier platform, which was called Lexis Advance. And this was my first real interaction with technology, because previously I'd been focused on content. My first interaction with working with engineers, I just kind of fell in love with it. I really liked working with the engineers, even though I had no technology background. And it just sort of opened up a whole world for me of user interfaces and solving problems for customers, delivering information to our customers using technology. And I just found it kind of magical. I fell in love with it and just started learning as much as I can. I don't have a computer science degree. I don't have a background in technology. I'm not even like Min, particularly good at math, but I just find it so interesting and fascinating. I also really like engineers. So I love working with engineers and data scientists and data engineers. I feel like when we speak a common language, which we can solve some really difficult problems together. And actually have a lot of fun and use a lot of creativity doing so.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Serena. Always pleased to hear anyone describe their role and experiences as magical. So I'm really, really intrigued and excited to get into the podcast and hear that unique perspective that you have on the world of technology as someone who's, adjacent as opposed to maybe, embedded right inside of it. Of course, your role has a huge bearing on the delivery of LexisNexis as well. So yeah, it'd be interesting to get into that. But Min, we're going to come back to you for this next question. So look, you've seen every major phase of AI development, from kind of traditional NLP to multi-agent systems. What has that evolution looked like for you?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. That my team and I, we have really evolved alongside every major wave of AI transformation in the market. I think the first wave I experienced was about 15 years ago during the era of traditional NLP and machine learning. Back then, it was all feature engineering. I still remember delivering a learning to rank project that used online engagement signals to improve search relevance. The deep learning revolution around 2018, models like BERT changed everything. Instead of relying on handcrafted features, model began learning directly from data. We seized that moment to innovate. One example was fine-tuning a BERT-like model to identify missing or alternative clauses in contracts. So it drastically reduced legal practitioners' manual review time and opened the door to new level of legal document understanding. And then, of course, the third big wave arrived in 2022 with ChatGPT and large language models fundamentally redefine what AI could do. We moved very quick. We launched our full GenAI product, Lexis Plus AI, in 2023, and then evolved into a personal legal assistant experience with prodigy in 2024. But I would say, even though every stage of AI has brought its own breakthrough, and each one has been bigger than the last, we're still tackling the same fundamental challenge, which is the quality of AI outcome. And by quality, I mean questions like how relevant it is, how accurate it is, how trustworthy is it for our customers. And that quality always exists on a spectrum. There's no such thing as 100% accuracy or 100% relevancy, especially in complex, high standard domain like legal. So for me, the evolution of each phase hasn't just been a technological shift. It has been a shift in how we think, how we build, and how we deliver trustworthy, high quality results to our customers. And it remains a continuous journey of experimentation, iteration, and improvement.
Yeah, some of the ways that you think you can overcome some of those, whether it's human in the loop or whatever else it might be. But Serena, let's come back to you. As we kind of discussed a little bit earlier, you're coming at this role and the world of technology from a legal background, which is, fairly unique. How has that perspective shaped the way you think about technology and product innovation, do you think?
I think it's a great question because in product management, to be a really effective product manager, you have to be able to understand the customer and have empathy for the customer. So not just know what the customer is doing, be able to identify them and look at their workflows. But there is a depth of understanding and, if I might say, connection to the work that's required. And this is true really for product managers, but it's also true for Min's team. They really have to understand our customers, what they're trying to do, and why. And so if you just look at the surface of that, you're not going to be effective. You really have to engage deeply. And so coming at that from a legal background helps me understand our customers because I was one. I also worked with them before I came to Lexis. So I'm very well versed in who lawyers are and what they do and how they do it. It also gave me a common language for speaking with our customers that was very, very helpful for my credibility. Many of our product managers do have legal backgrounds, and even some of our technologists as well. And this helps them kind of leverage that common knowledge. And I find that our credibility with our customers is enhanced when we're able to speak their language and see things from their perspective. The other thing is that with legal training, you have a lot of emphasis on a certain type of analysis. So, and if you are brought up with that kind of analytical thinking, and if it's developed, I think it's really helpful when you're working with technology. As a product manager, what you really need to do is use data to make decisions. It's a very analytical kind of practice. You're not just relying on your gut or, what the executive leadership is telling you, or even just taking what customers or sales are telling you at face value. You really need to look at data and do analysis of it and make your decisions on that basis. And that's another aspect of that legal training that I had that I think was extremely helpful. So not only did I learn to be sort of empathetic to the customer and customer focused, but be able to have that kind of strong analytical practice. Then the final thing is just having the domain expertise. Product managers generally are expected to also be experts in their subject matter. And it's the other reason why we hire a lot of product managers who have legal degrees is because obtaining the expertise in a domain that is as complicated as the law and as country specific, really, is very difficult to obtain. And so we like to seed our teams with some of those experts. We have many product managers who aren't lawyers as well. They have backgrounds in computer science or human interface or even things like psychology or math. But they need to have a lot of support from product managers who have that domain expertise.
Awesome. Yeah, no, it makes total sense, how many kind of cross-functional skills there are that you can bring to the table, and really like the approach of kind of peppering the teams with those folks that already have that domain experience. I'm sure that really kind of smooths out the learning curve and helps people ramp a little bit quicker when they're newer to the team, having someone that they can go to and refer to. So far, we've kind of been having two separate conversations. Now I want to kind of bring it together, right? Lexis plus AI is something that you've both worked on. And I'm sure in the process of doing so, you've learned a lot about how you can build strong collaboration between product and data science and the engineering teams. Min, let's come to you first on this one. Like, what has Lexis plus AI as a project taught you about how to collaborate with those different departments?
Yeah, well, I think what Serena just described already like touched this topic a bit. I can't agree anymore. I really want to resonate what Serena just mentioned because I have the same takeaway. When I think about what makes collaboration between product team and data scientist team really effective, especially in the GenAI space, one thing consistently stands out, and it is the importance of building a common language and a shared knowledge baseline across both groups. Serena just mentioned product team usually approach problems through the lens of customer pain points and users' needs. Data scientist team, on the other hand, they're looking at things like agentic AI capabilities, large language model selection, and technical constraints we have to work within. What I have seen is that the more we can translate across those perspectives, the better we work together. For example, when the product teams build a stronger foundational understanding of AI, and the data science team, they can deeply understand our customers as well as legal domain very well. Everything starts moving faster and decisions improve, alignments gets easier, and the collaboration becomes much more fluid. So for me, the biggest learning is about a highly efficient, productive team. It comes from both groups understand each other's world deeply and share a common language as they build together. Not only the common language, but common knowledge base. So understand each other's world's knowledge. And when that happens, you can see a meaningful difference in a product and a team dynamics.
Yeah, sounds great. And Serena, same question to you. How do you go about translating all of that domain knowledge and that knowledge that you've acquired within your team to kind of share that with the data science and engineering teams and vice versa?
Yeah. So, interestingly, before we started working on Lexis plus AI, so before the generative AI revolution, we certainly were working, as Min said, in NLP, natural language processing, and machine learning. And in fact, I started a program in the US focused on machine learning and question answering. One of the things that I did based on my conversations with our data science leaders is I established a subject matter expert team. So this is separate from the product management team. These are specifically legal experts who can create training data and evaluate the output of the models. So this was a problem that the data scientists had brought to me was, we can't experiment at the pace that we need to. We don't have any insights about how well our models are doing in solving the customer problem. And the product managers don't have enough capacity and, in fact, across the board legal expertise to be able to do this. Plus, they need to do product management functions. They can't just evaluate outputs for us. So that founding of that team brought in kind of a new element. And fast forward to Lexis plus AI, that team plus the product managers plus the data scientists, this unit of product manager, data scientist, and subject matter expert is a fundamental unit for advancing our experimentation and for us to be able to deliver the kind of innovation that we did and continue to do with Lexis plus AI. The way it works is that the product manager, based on their customer research, brings a problem to the data scientist and the subject matter expert together. So it might be something like, okay, I want to optimize a new use case. I want to be able to facilitate a really great response when a customer asks to generate a certain type of document, let's say, using our system. So that kind of unit of three will get together. Sometimes they're joined by a UX designer, and they will start looking at examples of the problem, deeply understanding it. So the product manager will define the problem, The subject matter expert will start to say, okay, from my legal domain expertise, here are some examples of questions that users would ask. Here are some examples of really great output. And let me explain to you why this is a really great and useful output. Let me unpack the questions. Let me help you really deeply understand what the customer is trying to achieve in the document, breaking it down into its different parts, what pieces really have value and meaning. And so that unit of 3, the product manager can translate that into requirements. The data scientist will translate that into experiments. Once that happens, they then together move forward with a plan of experimentation to refine the model output and deliver the feature into the product. And that's kind of the fundamental kernel of all of our teams, that unit of experimentation.
Awesome. I love that. The really, really cross-functional approach. I think some companies, make the mistake of siloing things off too much. I'm sure anyone out there listening in that is thinking about making the next move and maybe considering LexisNexis, it'll really speak to kind of what a mature engineering product culture you have within the business by kind of building out these kind of cross-functional kernels, as you say, to work on these projects. So yeah, thank you so much for sharing. We're going to come to you next, and really want to focus on AI fluency, confidence with AI. So, part of your responsibility is helping teams to become more fluent, become more confident with it. Obviously, in a huge, global organization like LexisNexis, I'm sure that comes with all sorts of different challenges. You've probably got some people, well, you certainly do. You have some people on the tech side of things that are very, very au fait with AI, and then probably other people, who are still catching up on earlier kind of technical releases. So yeah, how does that all work? How do you get people up to speed?
Yeah. I start with my team and talk a minute, like group outside my team. My team is largely composed of data scientists and machine learning service engineers. So most of them are already fluent and confident with AI. One of the most impactful cultural elements for this group is our commitment to fail fast and learn faster mindset. And that's one thing. The other thing is we also put a very strong emphasis on first principle thinking. Everyone might have been very familiar with that. And that means breaking down the problems to their most fundamental truths so we can innovate from the ground up. As you know, the opposite of this is analogy-based thinking, where you start with what already exists and you simply tweak it. Things could be competitor A does X, so we should also do X. That approach is faster and often good enough, but it can limit creativity and real innovation. So now I'm not saying that we should only use first principle thinking or only use analogy-based thinking. In reality, we use both all of the time. But many of our biggest innovations and the areas where we build real differentiation come from deliberately applying first principle thinking. So that's for the data science and AI team. When we talk about teams outside of this group, building AI fluency really starts with having a clear and unified enterprise vision. When people understand and believe in that shared purpose, they're much more motivated to engage. And a lot of the work my team has been focusing on is making AI reliable and also reusable. So we build shared platforms and AI services that everyone across the company can benefit from. That reduces fragmentation and also gives product teams confidence that they are building on a trustworthy, well-engineered foundation. So lots of teams, they're not reinventing the wheel every time. I think ultimately helping the organization become more confident with AI is far more than technology. I would think it's a cultural shift. It's a shift. It's a change in how we work, how we learn, and how we innovate together.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And Serena, that's a really nice segue into my next question in terms of Min's answer there, because Min's talking about how she goes beyond the technology team and impacts the wider business. And your role similar, right? It often bridges the kind of people teams and the tech teams. And so what have you found helps teams to stay curious and creative when working in such a complex and fast-paced space?
Yeah, so this is really the product manager's central role. Product managers are they're at the center of everything. And so they need to have a really incredible, what we think of as powerless leader skills, because none of the people that they work with report to them. So they don't have any real authority to make them do anything. So what they have to do is inspire them. They have to inspire the teams that they work with, whether it's designers or subject matter experts or Min's team of data scientists and data engineers. They have to be able to inspire them. And the way they do that is by bringing forward really interesting, difficult, sort of, meaty problems for the team to solve. I will say, knowing Min's team members as I do, there's nothing that they love more than a difficult problem to solve. And you want to be able to bring that. So the problems themselves are interesting. And in our domain, they are naturally so. LexisNexis is a company that has a tremendous amount of data. And it is multifaceted and deep data. And there's, I think, a lot of interesting things that data scientists can do with it. It's also true that our customers are trying to do very complex things with the information and with their workflows. And the generative AI models that we work with are now enabling us to do things for our customers that we've never been able to do. We can generate complex documents. We can unpack and respond to complex problems. We are delivering automated workflows. So those are just really inspiring and exciting problems to solve and solutions and technologies to work with. The other thing that we do that's really important, and this is really around both, practice and culture. And it's something that Min hit on earlier, but it's really having a strong culture of experimentation. The teams have to feel free to experiment and fail. There's no learning without failure. You have to be able to have failed experiments. The trick is to set up the teams to do it quickly and learn quickly. And I think both, Min and I have found that teams can do this if they're empowered to do so. So they have to have the autonomy to be determining what problems they're solving and how they're solutioning it. Now, we have management and expertise to be able to provide guidance. Certainly what the teams are doing is tied to our overall strategy, and they're very clear on that. But beyond that, empowered teams that have autonomy and teams that are good at experimentation will be successful. And the more successful you are, the more inspired you are to keep going. And those are the conditions that we want to create, both with our culture and with the methods that we provide our teams for delivering their work.
Awesome. Yeah, look, it makes total sense, right? How can you encourage curiosity and creativity if you don't first create the environment where people feel confident and comfortable experimenting and releasing that creativity and releasing that curiosity? I promised the audience we'd come back to AI, and lo and behold, here we are. We're gonna delve into it again. So, what are the kind of new developments and challenges that you're most excited about right now? And yeah, how are you going to overcome those challenges?
Yeah, I'll start with talking about product vision because product vision guide our technology innovation. So our product vision is to empower every legal professional with an AI assistant that truly understands them, that work with them. And then our AI vision is to help realize and even accelerate that future. So for me, what's most exciting is how the evolution of our RAG systems is reshaping the path toward a truly personalized legal assistant. Over the past few years, we have advanced from a base RAG with vector search to graph RAG with a knowledge graph layer. And this year, we focus heavily on building towards agentic RAG, enabling agents to plan and execute complex multi-step tasks as we move from single agent to multi-agent intelligence. So this shift significantly strengthens our ability to deliver high-quality, trustworthy responses to our customers. And looking ahead, our next evolutionary leap is to build an agentic personalized workflow solution And enhancing long-term memory will be essential. So I'm most excited about the building the long-term memory because it drives deep personalization and it's through a dual track learning system. So what we're going to build is this dual track learning system. The first track is human guided learning, where you will see the real time. We can have the customer have the real time human interventions or corrections to help keep agents aligned with user intent. Because from time to time, we see if we just leave the agent to do the work, agents sometimes could over explore or so the human interruption, the real time human interaction can help for that. The second track is the context driven learning. That is from both short-term memory, which focus on everything happens in current sessions, and also the long-term memory, which is distilled from accumulated short-term memories. So when long-term memory grows, the agent learns your preference, your writing tone, your citation style, your formatting preference, and even your role on persona or expertise level much better. So that is what can enable to personalization. For example, if you handle a compliance matter last week, our product will memorize what you did and how you approach that. It will memorize what is the successful or failed path. So when you start a similar task this week, the agent doesn't just wait for your instructions, typically suggest the next step. So it's kind of sync ahead of you. So I'm really excited about this future, which we will see deeper collaboration between human experts and AI agents, and they can work together to learn, reason, and grow over time.
Awesome. Yeah, look, really, really great perspective. And again, great segue into the next question to you as well, Serena. So, from a product point of view, how do you make sure AI tools stay grounded in real user needs and remain trustworthy? And how do you kind of balance that relationship?
So fundamentally, we stay close to the customer. And that's not just true for our product managers. It's true across the board. Our product managers, our designers, our data scientists, software engineers, everyone is grounded in an understanding of the customer's problem, in the user data that we're collecting, in the research that we're constantly doing with customers. We talk to customers every day and are, through those dialogues, really understanding what they need and what problems they're having and how we might solve them. We're also looking at what they are doing. So user behavior and user data, engagement data, as well as looking at other kinds of patterns of behavior in the product, the kinds of queries that they're entering or prompts that they're entering. Now, of course, all of this data is anonymized and sanitized, and we have very tight governance to make sure that it is secure, and the user sessions and their data are private. So what we're looking at is kind of an anonymized or sanitized version of the data. But nevertheless, we need to look at it in order to be able to understand what our customers are trying to do and whether or not they're being successful. So that's kind of the foundation of not just product management, but every function at Lexis, customer focus, and being like immersed in all kinds of data that we can uncover about the customer. The next thing is that our responses, everything that we build and do, needs to be grounded in our content. Our data is what is authoritative about the responses that we're providing, the workflows that we're building and delivering. And it is expansive, comprehensive, and quite unique, the content set that we have. So anyone who is going out and using the general purpose platforms that are available to the broader public, not just to lawyers, those general purpose platforms do not have the authoritative data that we have. They also don't have all of the editorial enhancements and enrichments that our domain experts have added to that content and the understanding that they have of that content over the years. So that kind of fundamental foundation of our knowledge of the customer and our authoritative legal content, that's the basis for establishing trust in the system. I'll also just comment on hallucination, and I think Min has also really good technical understanding of this, so she can elaborate. But hallucination is in the nature of the models, right? They're language models, and so they are going to try to complete the response in a language sense, in a fluidity sense, before they're going to, in their nature, try to make the response accurate. And so that tendency is something that we have to really understand from a technical perspective and continue to sort of chip away at that problem. Grounding our responses in our content and using our customer understanding really gives us an advantage in delivering responses that are accurate and authoritative. So we always do that, and we always ensure that our customers are very aware that they need to go to the underlying sources and documents and confirm our responses. However, we have developed a number of technical approaches to reducing hallucination to as low as it can possibly be. And one of these has to do with our citation graph. So within the legal system, you have lines of authority. And so cases, opinions are connected to one another. So we've created a knowledge graph, if you will, of our legal cases. And we use that to confirm whether or not a response is accurate, whether or not a case is real, or the model has imagined it. And so that, as well as other tools that we're developing using the generative AI models, help us to reduce that tendency. Because for our customers, hallucination is a potentially career-ending problem.
Really comprehensive answer. And yeah, like I said, fascinating to hear how you're solving the challenges that all companies are grappling with. And as you said, particularly in your space, it's incredibly important that customers have a lot of trust in the system. So yeah, really, really interesting. But my penultimate question is going to be for both of you, but we'll come to you first, Min. So, you've been with the business for a long time now. What is it that keeps people with LexisNexis and motivates them to stay and grow over the long term? Is it the culture of experimentation we talked about? Is it the cross-functional nature? Like, what do you think it is?
Yeah, there are quite a few things. One of the reasons LexisNexis has a long history of innovation is that experimentation. You mentioned about experimentation. I do think that's truly part of our DNA, especially in AI. The work is fundamentally different from traditional software engineer. In software engineering, if there is a bug, you trace it, you fix it, and you're done. It's deterministic. But AI isn't like that. As earlier mentioned, we're not delivering a single fixed outcome. We're delivering an extent of quality. So our data scientists may test hundreds of solutions just to find a few that perform well enough to go into production. And as our AI organization has matured, we've reached a fairly stable pattern where 20% to 30% of our experiments ultimately make to get to production. So then my point here is we will have to be a highly experimental team, because there's simply no other way to deliver meaningful AI capabilities. And the more experiments we run, the better our chances of uncovering those winning ideas that can actually bring to life in production. So experimentation isn't something we have to encourage. It's built into how we work. Our teams are empowered to test ideas earlier, fail fast, and learn even faster. So that's one thing. The other thing is what really keeps my team, the engineer and technology data scientists, motivated is the impact. So we watch customer feedback closely, especially our NPS trends, because they tell us immediately whether the work we're doing is making a noticeable difference or not. So when you can see that your solution is helping customers make better decisions, it reinforces that your contribution matters. So we're watching, keep a very close eye on the NPS and customer verbatim. Now, another thing is that keeps people growing here is our AI and data science program isn't just about research, it's about delivery. So we ask our teams to think like CTOs or even business leads, balance quality with speed and be mindful of operational cost and build solutions that can truly scale. And that mindset help our AI team members grow into a more well-rounded, business-oriented technologist. So in short, experimentation thrives here because it has to impact, motivates us to improve. And our mission and culture creates the space for people to stay and grow over the long term.
Fantastic. Yeah, as we've touched on, it sounds like a great culture broadly, and also a great engineering culture and kind of product focused culture within the business. Serena, anything at all you'd like to add?
Really good product managers, data scientists, engineers, etc. You want your work to matter. And so when you understand that your work matters, that creates a fantastic feedback loop for our employees. The second thing is the importance of the work and the mission of the company. So the mission of the company is advancing the rule of law around the world. This is something that we all take very seriously. It really does drive what we do, because we're solving problems for lawyers and we're using our very unique, deep, and wide legal content to be able to fulfill that. And when you enable advocates around the world, or journalists, or whomever it might be, to be able to get access and answers, you are empowering the rule of law. So that is meaningful for our teams. And then the third thing that I would add is people come to Lexis, I think, because they are attracted by our ability to work with the most cutting edge technology and really innovate and have that impact for our customers and in the market. But they stay because of the other people who work at Lexis. And by that, I mean, we are a very collegial, respectful, collaborative, friendly culture. We like each other. I mean, you can see this with Min and I. We really like working together. It's fun. It's exciting. And we are collaborative and respectful. We're very team-minded. So a lot of times when I hire kind of new folks into my team and they talk about past places where they've worked and how it's been hard, a lot of it comes down to the fact that the other people that they worked with weren't supportive, were competitive, undercut them, weren't communicative, all of those kinds of things that can go wrong in a culture. And those are the kinds of things that, of course, this kind of culture comes from the ground up as well as the top down. And I think it is long-term and pervasive at Lexis that we bring together good people working on really interesting and exciting problems to have an impact, and to do so in an environment that is psychologically safe, as we say, and really promotes their creativity and trust in each other.
Awesome. And, I think, again, just really reinforces what a fantastic culture the two of you have been part of building. And I'm sure many, many other stakeholders within the business have been integral in building. And again, just to reiterate, anyone out there listening in, considering your next move, definitely, I would say LexisNexis would be near the top of the list after all the information you've heard so far on today's pod. Final question. And we're actually going to kind of, it really follows on very nicely, I think, from our previous question. So, you both work closely together across many projects. I think it's really evident that you both have a really great working relationship. And so, Min, let's come to you first. What's one thing you've learned from each other along the way? So what's one thing you've learned from Serena along the way?
Yeah, for me, I'm really learning a lot about customers' pain points and getting more familiar with legal domain knowledge from Serena and her team. We're building this highly experimental, customer-focused culture together. I also think it's critical to partner with a product manager who really understands AI. When a product manager truly understands how AI works, it becomes much easier for both teams to share a common language and collaborate smoothly. It also saves the data science team a lot of time because we don't need to start from scratch explaining the foundational concept of AI. That's one of the reasons we love to work with Serena and her team. As I mentioned earlier, the more we understand each other's world, the more productive we will be a team, and ultimately, the more innovative the product we can build for our customers.
Fantastic. Very well said. Serena, same question. What have you learned from Min along the way?
So I love working with Min. She's so passionate about her work, about her team, solving problems, and also just kind of deeply inspired and motivated by all the problems and by really impacting the customers. So, she sets that tone and culture for her teams, and we work really, really well with them. She's brought really a lot of very talented people into the organization that she's built over time. For Min personally, I've learned so much about the technologies themselves. Min often brings ideas to me because, she knows the technology better than I do, of course, with her background. And so she'll bring ideas to me and we'll just kind of brainstorm about them and discuss them. And I think, I can think about, just as I sit here, several times where Min has brought me an idea and then convinced me that we should do it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, yeah, convinced me that we should do it because she knows enough about really the customer and the strategy and how what we're working on in product to be able to make the arguments. And I would say more often than not, Min is right about what we should do. And so, one of the current features that we just released, actually just the other week, had to do with blending legal and web content together in a new offering that we have. And that's really kind of groundbreaking for us as a company and also in the market. And I remember just, a few weeks or months ago, Min brought me this idea and said, we should really do this. And I was skeptical. And we had a real debate in her office. And she was using her whiteboard to convince me that this would be a really good idea. And she was able to convince me. And now that we've done it, I can see that it absolutely is the right direction for us.
I would say because you have a strong understanding of AI, it's easy to convince you.
Yeah. And never underestimate the power of a whiteboard either, right?
That's true.
Awesome. Well, look, thank you so much for joining us today. Unfortunately, for all out there listening in, this is all we have time for on today's pod. So all that leaves me to do is just firstly thank Min Chen for joining us.
Thank you so much.
And Serena Wellen, thank you so much for joining us as well.
It's been my pleasure.
Awesome. This has been another episode of the DevLab podcast. Check out the podcast description for all the relevant links and information on how to get in touch with LexisNexis and get yourself into process with them, because it sounds like a fantastic place to work, fantastic culture to be a part of. As always, like, share, subscribe, and tell your friends about the pod. And yeah, we'll see you next time. Thanks for listening in, and thanks again to our guests.
Thank you.
Thank you.